Hey there everyone, welcome back to One Code Camp. This is Justin, and in today's video, we're diving into the basics of Java programming. This is part 2 of our series where we'll explore variables, data types, and typecasting. If you missed part 1, make sure to check it out first. In that video, we covered setting up Java and writing your very first program, which will help you get the most out of today's session. Let's kick things off by understanding what variables are in programming. In simple terms, a variable is like a container that holds data. In Java, when you create a variable, you specify its data type, which tells the program what kind of data the variable will hold. For example, if you want to store a number, you might use an int data type. And if you want to store text, you'd use a string. Let's dive into coding to see how this works in practice. Alright, open up Visual Studio Code and let's write some code together. Start by creating a new Java file named main.java, and we're going to declare and initialize some variables of different data types. Let's start by creating a class and a main method, and then let's declare some variables. So first is a variable named myAge. It has a data type of int and a value of 30. So the equal sign here is what we call the assignment operator. This essentially means that we're assigning 30 to myAge. So when we want to access this value, we just call its variable name. So again, int is for whole numbers. Next is double. Double is for floating point values. For example, we have pi, which has a value of 3.14159. So like what we did with int, we're assigning the 3.14159 value to our pi variable name. Next is what we call the char, short for character. So character is for single characters, like for example, this A. So here we have a variable named grade and a value A, which is assigned to the variable name grade. And then we also have a boolean value. So boolean value is either true or false. So for example here, we created a variable name is Java fun, and then we assigned it a value of true. So now, go ahead and run the codes to see the output in the terminal. So in order to see the output, just print them out like we did in the part 1 of our video, system.out.println, and then you can call the variable name in order to use it or output it in our terminal. Let's do the same thing for our pi, for our grade, as well as our boolean value. Go ahead and run the code to see the output in the terminal. You may do so by clicking this button. Then you will see the output here. So you should see the values of the variables printed out. Like for example, myAge here, we assign a value of 30, so it should be printed out here in our terminal. So if you're following along, feel free to pause the video and experiment with different values. Let's move on to typecasting and type conversion. Sometimes you'll need to convert one data type to another. For example, from an int to a double or vice versa. So in Java, there are two types of casting. So in order to demonstrate that better, let me clear this for now. And the first type of casting is called the implicit casting. So when we say implicit casting, this is automatic. So what happens here is we are converting a smaller type to a larger type. Let me add a comment here, converting a smaller type to a larger type. One example of that is converting from int to double. So to see this in action, let's say we declare or initialize a value or a variable of int. Let's call this myInt and assign a value of 10. So now what we're going to do is use the implicit casting. So double, my double. What we're doing here is we're creating another variable and we will store myInt here. So the value of my int, which is 10, will be stored in this double. So the type from int will be converted to a double. So to see that, let's log this in our terminal. So the system out that print line. Then for example, this is our integer value. Let's add the my int. And next, let's have the double value. So this one is my double. So like I said before, it is automatic, wherein it automatically converts int to double. So to see this, let us run this in our terminal. So as you can see, our integer value is 10. This is a whole number. And since we created or initialized a value my double, or a variable my double, and assigned the value of my int, 10 will now be converted to a double or a floating point value, like this. The type is converted successfully here. Now that we've already discussed implicit casting, the next type is called explicit casting. So this one is manual. So here, we are converting a larger type to a smaller type. For example, we have double to int. To see this in action, let's declare or initialize a variable here with a data type of double, let's say another double, and assign it a value of 9.78, for example. Now let's declare an integer variable. Let's use int, another int, and assign another double here. So as you can see, it is being highlighted here. It has an error because, as I said, you need to manually convert this. Since this is a larger type, double is a larger type than int, we have to cast this. In order to do so, what we can do is add parentheses. And inside this parentheses, type the variable or the data type here. In this case, int. So what we're doing is we're converting this 9.78 to, this is a double data type. We're converting this into an integer data type. So to see this, we can print this in our terminal. So let's say we have the double value. Then concatenate the variable, another double. Then this will be our integer value. Now we can run this in our terminal. So let's ignore the 10. We'll be focusing on this part. So as you can see in this specific line of code, we have initialized a variable which is called another double, and we assigned this variable a value of 9.78. So this is the 9.78 here. Now what we want is to cast this to another type, which is an integer value. So as you can see here, from a floating point value, we now have our integer. And it's also important to take note here that we are not rounding down or rounding up. We are truncating. So we're removing the decimal place. That's why we get 9. So in summary, with implicit casting, Java automatically converts a smaller type to a larger type without losing any data, as you can see in this example. But for explicit casting, you need to be careful because it can result in data loss. So notice how we manually cast the double to an int here. And then the decimal part is removed, like so. So now it's your turn to try declaring a few variables and perform both implicit and explicit typecasting. Experiment with different data types like byte, short, or even character, and see what happens when you try casting them to another type. Alright, so let me close this for now. And to wrap this up, or before we wrap up, let's recap what we covered today. So we learned about variables and how to declare them and initialize them. We explored about different primitive data types in Java. And then lastly, we practiced typecasting and type conversion. In this video, we covered the essentials of working with variables and data types in Java. Remember, these concepts are building blocks for more advanced programming, so make sure to practice them. The next tutorial will be diving into control structures like the if statements as well as loops. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to OneCodeCamp, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Code Along session.